Okay.
I mean the
Reset it then.
international webinar.
Okay, also check your WhatsApp. Also check your WhatsApp, please. I sent there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking them now. Just 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, Peter sir.
Okay, that's lucky. Are we able to test the screen, test the presentation to make sure the videos are working?
Yeah.
Let's just have a look now.
I can't see that. Yeah. I can't see the presentation screen though. We can see you, we can hear you, everything is okay.
It says I'm presenting my screen now.
Yes, now it is visible, yes.
And if I go to this mode,
Yeah, correct, we can see the screen now. Empowerment through effective communication, yes.
okay. So what I just want to be able to do, just and if I Can you see the video?
The video, no sir. Yes, it's coming again.
Can you see that now? Do you hear that?
Yes.
And you see that okay?
Yeah, no issues. The audio we can't hear.
You can't hear the music? Then you couldn't hear the music then?
Music, I can't.
Okay. They're all with music, so I'm not sure why you just see that. Because it should be in
Grishma KP, you can hear the music. Grishma,
Yes, ma'am.
you can hear the music of the video. You know, when he played the video, could you hear the music?
No, ma'am, I cannot.
Okay.
It makes it a little bit makes it a little bit dry without the music, but I'm not sure how to make that music because it's just a direct play from YouTube clips.
Okay. Usually this problem arises in the webinars, Peter sir. Whenever the resource person try to play the videos. So it's nearly time for us. The participants have already joined. Is that okay if we start?
Yes, we can do that.
And then there we see if the videos are playing. Otherwise, we can just leave them. So that we don't have to keep them waiting, sir. Is that okay with you? If it's okay with you.
That's fine. Are you still seeing? Okay, you should be seeing the full screen now.
Yeah, that's there.
Okay. Would you be? Because I don't, now that I've got my presentation mode, I don't see anything of the webinar, so I need at least one person that is listening and able to tell me that yes or no, this is not working. Are you able to be that person for me?
Yeah, no problem. I'm there for you, and also the coordinators of the program, Ms. Jency and Ms. Prema are also with you.
Can I interrupt? The screen audio on your presentation screen is off. That's why the audio is not audible. Can you please turn that on and so that we can hear you?
I can see that, but it's not actually letting me. I'm trying to see. I can see that the screen audio is off, and I don't know because when I click on that, it doesn't actually come back to me. I should try this. It's not allowing me to unmute. That's not delay. People, the videos have just got music. They haven't got any spoken word with them, so I can actually add a little bit over the top of that. So that should
Yeah, and then that's okay. That's okay.
So I guess we're about ready to start. Is that what you would like?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Sina, shall I start now? Jency.
Ma'am, we'll start. It's 1:30, no? Can start.
Yeah, right on time. Thank you. Hi everyone. Welcome to the international webinar on empowerment through effective communication, organized by the Department of English, St. Mary's College, Thrissur. To be or not to be is no more a question, because we have to be virtual and also virtuous. We are in the midst of many natural calamities like flood, earthquakes, storms, and also some man-made problems, discrimination, marginalization, and cold wars. Above all this, we have the pandemic COVID-19. This forces us to keep our mouths and noses closed, and also to move away from our dear ones, our children, our parents, our brothers and sisters, family, and colleagues. Then, as a light from the thunderstorm, there emerges virtual meetings, conferences, and webinars, through which we can communicate freely and confidently. Effective communication is the need of the hour, and this is what we realize. The speaker of the day, Mr. Pete Sinclair, is a close associate of mine for the past 22 years. He is one of the most gentle, caring, and compassionate persons that I have ever come across. He is an expert in the field of education, and he has excellent academic background, but I would love to take him as a human being who believes that the aim of education is to make ourselves more humble and humane. I'm sure our distinguished guest of the day would help us to open new windows for effective communication beyond our social distancing and closed lips. With everything nice and beautiful that a friendship can hold, I welcome Peter sir to this international webinar. Our college, St. Mary's College, Thrissur, is celebrating Platinum Jubilee this year. This institution stands as an icon of women empowerment and success in the field of education all over the world, and situated in the heart of the city of Thrissur. Our beloved principal, Sister Dr. Maggie Jose, will join us soon to inaugurate the webinar and speak to the audience. I welcome you, Sister. I am delighted to share with you our happiness in having 1,280 registered participants from 6 different countries for this webinar. We are indeed grateful for each one of you and the trust you show in us. I welcome all our participants far and near to join us. Once again, I welcome you all. Learn the tips of effective communication. Use them in your life and stay safe, healthy, and happy. Thank you. Over to our principal, Sister Dr. Maggie Jose.
Thank you, Bindu. Congratulations to all my colleagues in English department for your great achievement. Good afternoon, everyone. As Dr. Bindu and already mentioned, our college Thrissur, our college St. Mary's College Thrissur is celebrating its platinum jubilee this year. We envisage many new initiatives for the benefit of academic community. With immense pleasure, I once again congratulate Department of English for organizing the international webinar on empowerment through effective communication in connection with Platinum Jubilee celebration. The quality of your communication is the quality of your life. So, it is important to be equipped with the strategies to empower ourselves with effective communication to ensure quality life. I strongly believe that this webinar will prove productive and effective because of the resourceful speaker, Pete Sinclair, who has more than 30 years of extensive experience. I appreciate every participant for your willingness to hone your communication skills by attending such webinars. Wishing everyone a good luck. I conclude. Thank you.
I feel honored to introduce the speaker of the day, Pete Sinclair, who is an educator with more than 30 years of teaching and management experience. The young learners over here, you can be very happy because our speaker has a special empathy towards young learners and strive to understand and support their needs. I'm sure he will motivate you to embrace the challenge of acquiring new skills, as he believes this not only enriches the learning process of life in general, but model lifelong journey of students and start life. With prior experiences in UAE, Thailand, Australia, Nepal, America, and New Zealand, he has a unique perspective in institutional administration. Currently, he is the assistant principal of Frankfurt International School, Germany. This profile speaks he is highly resourceful a person, but I strongly believe this webinar would be highly productive and beneficial. I request Mr. Pete Sinclair to begin the session.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
So, you can introduce the resource person.
The introduction is already given.
Are you ready? Let's start.
Okay. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. If someone can confirm that you can hear me, that would be great.
Yes, sir. I can hear you clearly.
Thank you very much. I'm sitting in an isolated room in a cell at my home in Germany, looking at a presentation to more than 1,000 people on effective communication. I've just heard some very wonderful facts about myself that I'm not sure that I can live up to, but I would do my very best. But as I sit here, my day started in South Africa. The COVID crisis that we face has an impact on students, communities that I work with in South Africa. So when we're looking at effective communication, it's really interesting that I'm sitting in a room many thousand miles away from those that I'm going to communicate with, and probably thinking that I'm going to be communicating in a format that is the least effective. And I say that because communication is not about the words that we speak. Communication is about our body language. It's about the connections that we make. And I find that our technological age has allowed us to be in communication with a lot of people but in some respects has robbed us of the vital communication that is face-to-face. But let me have a little bit of I want to talk to you about really my philosophy for communication, and it is really based on leadership of young people. As you get older, I started my career, as you've heard, more than 30 years ago, and I was one of the youngest educators in the room. As I come to the end of my career, I sit as one of the oldest educators in most of the rooms that I work in. And so I find myself looking at, well, what are the changes I need to make? What's the impact that I can make? And I believe that the best way that I can make an impact is through guiding the leadership of young people. So I want to talk to you about that. I would like to share with you some work that I've been very fortunate enough to have come across my table with Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits, and how I've used that in communication and the leadership of young people. And then I want to have a look at some of the significant communications that we do make, and how we can empower young people to be communicators, to be problem solvers, and to be peaceful resolvers of conflict, because I see they are the challenges that we face in the world today. The empowerment comes from the support that we can give to young people. The fact they know that there is an open door, that they are able to see the mentorship, and I guess creating programs that are authentic, that encourage them to be able to communicate and problem solve. And then I want to leave you with some closing thoughts, because if we spend an hour talking and we walk away, we've just spent an hour. But if we spend an hour talking and then we have a point that we can move forward from, and we can make some commitments, then we actually are stepping into making some changes. Let me start with my background. I grew up in a small village of 8,000 people in a corner of Australia that most people didn't know of, and still today don't know of. And while I was sitting in my classroom at school, I thought, if I have something worth speaking about, where I am, no one is ever going to know. So I need to move. And so that was where my journey, as you heard, I've lived in and worked in 6 countries. But of course, through international education, we come in contact with more than 50 countries. My school has an active population that is somewhere between 50 and 70 distinct nationality groups within the school. And so that means that we are faced with multiple ways of thinking and multiple ways of communicating. So for a boy that grew up in a small rural community, many miles away from anywhere, I realized that if I have something to say, I need to move. And so I started looking at opportunities that would give me chances to learn, chances to interact, and ways that I could develop the skills needed to be effective in someone else's country. As you heard, I've been teaching, although I don't think of it as teaching, I think of more of it as I've been fortunate enough to be in classrooms with young people, and I've been learning from them. Because truly, the learning that happens in classrooms should be a two-way street, but I believe that the most learning that comes from a classroom is the learning that we gain from young people. Young people that we can inspire, that we can motivate, and that we can impart the knowledge that we've gained so that their development, their mistakes can be limited, and we are able to move forward as a global community. The 6 countries that I've worked in, They taught me something each time. I started by moving to countries where I could speak the language and ostensibly where I thought the same way that people did. So English-based thinking, English-based countries. But that teaches you one thing, that just because I look the same doesn't mean I think the same. And so we have to be able to step away from that paradigm and start to understand that each person has a different and unique way of communicating. Each person has a different and unique way of thinking, and it's based on so many pieces of our past, so many pieces of the puzzle that we call life. But for me, there's always been one aim. I do not believe that I'm an expert. I do not believe that I'm the best person to be leading as a teacher, or as an educator, or as an administrator. But I do believe that I have a responsibility to try and inspire and motivate. I also believe that sorry, something has just gone wrong. Let me come back to here. I also believe that we're given the same day, and so when I woke up this morning, it's my decision about what I'm going to do and what happens with the day. It's not anyone else's responsibility to make that day great. It's not anybody else's responsibility to make me happy. But it's my responsibility to make the best out of that day that I can. And if I can carry that philosophy into my teaching, into the way that I interact with young people and with my colleagues, then I believe that we are able to move forward. I think it is our responsibility to bring the best we can into every day. And if we do that, we inspire and motivate. One of the things that I discovered is that there are two ways that we communicate. It's those things that we say, the fact that we're able to stand up in front of an audience, and we're able to talk about, and we're able to quote from books, and we're able to expound all these things. But it's the covert message. It's the message that we don't necessarily realize that we're imparting. And so it becomes really important that it's not only what I say, but it's what I do. Because as an administrator in a school, if I step into a colleague's classroom and talk to them about their day, and talk to them about their lessons that the students have done, but I don't step into another colleague's classroom and give them the same time, the message is very clear. The message is very clear that I'm choosing where I spend my time, and I'm not giving it equally. And the message is the same with students. If I am on the sidelines of the basketball game, but I'm not on the sidelines of the music concert, then the students are able to say, wow, he doesn't like culture, he likes sport. And so the covert message, the hidden message is what I feel that when we're doing online seminars that we're robbed of, because we actually don't get to see what our body language is. We don't get to see the hidden messages that are there, and that's such an important part of the communication. So for me, these things guide me. These have guided me most of my life, and it's the reason why I have developed some of the programs that I've developed, that I've worked with, and I'll share those with you a little bit later. But for now, I want to just take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to share a video with you called Thinking Like This. And I do apologize to anybody that has seen this work before. It's not stuff, it's not material that I've developed. I believe very much in seeking out the best and inspirational work from people around the globe. And this comes from an organization called Simple Truths, and I would like to share this with you now. And I apologize that there is no sound with this, but I'm hoping everybody can see that. If you can confirm that you can see that, somebody, please.
Yes, we can, Peter sir.
Excellent. Thank you.
There is no audio. Audio?
Unfortunately, the audio is not playing through on this. I can't unmute the audio, and so we just need to take the message as it is. I apologize for that. So that video for me, I think the message that I want to share with that is that if we hope, make it positive. Sorry. So the message is that when we work together, and I will share some of the work of Stephen Covey, and one of the habits that Stephen Covey has noticed about communicators and effective leaders is that when we work together, we actually increase the power. And you see that when a flock of geese are flying in formation, they support each other. It's not about the noise that they're making is a positive noise, and I think that that's a really valuable metaphor for the way that we need to be living. If we have something that we wish to say, we need to be able to make it positive. And one of the things, of course, is that comes to me often is that sense of what I say to an individual, what I say, and particularly what I say to a young person, is so vitally important that I get it right. And I think over the 40 years of teaching and working with young people that I've got it wrong on many occasions, and I hope that I've been able to find the way to get it right and to make the changes. You know, when you have a student that some many years later comes in contact with you and says, you know, on this particular day you said something to me and I remember it and it stuck with me. But fortunately it's something good and it's been positive in my life. But equally, we may have said something to an individual that has not been so positive, that we've not been in the better frame of mind, or we've not thought through what we're saying. And our honking is not positive. Our honking is a criticism. And even when we're looking at when I'm working with students, I try to ensure that we don't ever criticize. What we call friendly edits. And looking at how we can encourage while making the changes that maybe we need to make. How we can look at offering advice without offering criticism. And that's why I really like the clip about the geese, that there's always one that stays behind. There's always one that is there. We fall back to support. We join a group and we're able to travel on. And the other is what I say versus what I do. It's so important that when I say to my colleagues and my students that I have an open door policy, then that's exactly what that means. That it's open to everybody. And you also have to understand too that when you are working with young people, when you're working with colleagues, their paradigm is not always your paradigm. And sometimes it can be really, so it's looking at how you can manage that and how you can work at making what you say and what you do harmonize. Let's just again have a look at another clip. This is really the key to me in effective communication. These words that are floating on the screen now. We as educators have to understand that every day students are watching us. So what we say is challenged every day by what a young person sees. If we are not consistent, if we don't have the integrity, the honesty that we do, we live by the codes that we expect our young people to live by. And it's also a responsibility of ours then to make sure that the integrity, the ethics that we live by, the respect that we communicate with each other, they are expected behaviors as well of the young people. I remember some years back my head of school coming into a meeting that I was running with students, and he said to the students, I don't often change my mind, but I will listen to you. And the students just talked to him without emotion, clearly, and presented their message. And he walked out of the meeting saying, "You've changed me." And from that point on, I understood that he was a man of integrity. He was a man who spoke his mind clearly, but he was also open to change and open to listen. So, at the beginning of every year, I have a responsibility to welcome new parents. I'm not sure what the demographic of your school is, but as I understand it, you are a leading school. You have a very strong support network. You have a very strong student and faculty base. As an international school, sometimes we're not able to break that. We're challenged with the fact that every year 25% of our population changes. We welcome new families from all around the world, and we say goodbye to families as they go to other parts of the world. And so we have an introduction session to all new families, an orientation session, and my responsibility is to talk to the new families. And by the time that it gets to me, it's like a lesson 6 on Friday. Everybody is starting to glaze over because they've had so much information shared with them about this is how we do this, and this is where you can find that, and those things. And so for me, it's more about this. Angelou, if you don't know of her, she's a great read. I can highly recommend anything that she has written. She's a wonderful person, but I love this quote: people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And it comes back to this: if we honk, make it positive. This concept of this student that some 25 years ago contacted me and said, "You said one thing to me and it changed my life." And I was so pleased that it changed his life for the better. It wasn't, he didn't remember what I said, but he remembered how it made him feel and what happened. And I was fortunate enough to be there at the right time and said the right thing. So we have a responsibility to work towards making people feel the value that they are. I tell my students that for me, leadership is not about standing on the stage and delivering a presentation. Leadership is not about being a captain of a sports team. Leadership is not about being the head of a school or head of a department. It's not a position. Leadership has nothing to do with your position. Leadership has to do with what other people see of you. And I have the belief that it doesn't matter who we are, it doesn't matter what we do, where we are, there is somebody watching us that thinks we are the best person on the planet, that they admire us, they respect us for who we are, for what we do, they look up to us and they want to be like us. And whether we know it or not, I believe we have a person that's doing that somewhere. And therefore we have a responsibility to be the best that we can be. We have a responsibility not to disappoint that person, not to let them down at a time when they need us most. And so that's my definition of leadership. It's that sense of I don't care whether you're a 5-year-old, a 5th grader, a 4th grader, or an octogenarian. I care that what you do inspires someone to be better than they thought they could be. And that becomes, I think, for me, the tenet of how I educate, how I communicate, and what my aim in life is. And the days that I fall short of that, I try to remind myself and go back and have a look at how I can improve. So that brings me to Stephen Covey's work, because one of the things that Stephen Covey discovered, for those of you that are aware of his work, it's simple, it's very effective, and it's a great program to share with young people, because it puts things in such an ordered way. It makes things very, very easy to look at. He found that effective people, there are 7 things that these effective people do. The first habit is they're proactive. clear end in mind, and I want to share with you how I see this with students, and take you through that a little bit. First things first, making sure that everything is in the right order so that it can happen. Habit 4 is probably the most difficult one for a young person and sometimes for an older person to actually understand how we can do that. And I am truly inspired when I see a colleague, when I see a mentor that is actually able to show me how a win-win situation can happen. It truly inspires me because I personally, that's one of the things that I struggle the most with. Seek to understand before you are understood. Synergize, this is what we, I guess, would be saying about the geese. They all work together to be better than they can be individually. And then habit 7 is just to sharpen the sword, to actually practice these things, make it as part of your routine, make it as part of the program that you have in your daily life. So if we come to them, the proactive is planning. So I'm talking to students about planning, and not so much planning in terms of, okay, let's have a plan of what we can do, but planning in terms of, here's an opportunity to attend a seminar. I see in the list there are some young people that have said, well, okay, I'm going to attend this seminar and I'm going to take something from it. And so that's the proactiveness, is actually planning, thinking about it. Students complain to me all the time, why do we have 5 rules, why do we have these sorts of things? And that's also that proactiveness of putting things in place before they need to be put in place. And then habit 2, end in mind. I find that a lot of us have deadlines. We work to deadlines rather than timelines. So we sit on our calendar and we say, okay, on this particular day, we have this commitment that is needed to be met. My guess is, if the English department had done that and had just set a deadline, then we wouldn't be having this webinar now. But they developed a timeline, they developed a continuum that meant people had their responsibilities and were able to work with it. And I guess in an all-girls school, maybe female students don't work like this, but certainly when I work, my largest client base are young men that are struggling with deadlines. And they struggle with deadlines because they have no timeline. So we work and we develop those, and we look at how the end point has to be reached by a series of steps. And then this one's also an important one. Sort out the big rocks, the things that are most important. What is it? What's the message that you want to communicate? What's the thing that you want most out of life? Do you have a personal mission? Have you created a mission statement for yourselves, for your life? Is it family that you're putting first? Is it career you're putting first? Is it your health? Where do those things fit in, so that the smaller pieces can fill in the gaps, rather than putting all the trivial things in first and then the big important things don't actually have a place to fit. And as I say, this one is the most difficult from my perspective. It's the most difficult for students, and it's the most difficult for me personally. Trying to find where we can both win. I have a program called Win As Much As You Can, and I usually introduce that at about day 3 when I have a long-term program with young people. And I spend the first 2 days building teams, creating teams, getting them to work as teams, getting them to support each other, a little bit like the geese. If someone's falling behind, we only work at the pace of the slowest member in the group, not the pace of the fastest member in the group. We work like that. And so then after 3 days of building teams and seeing these beautiful teams develop, I introduce this called Win As Much As You Can. And that's all I tell them. I give them an activity and I say, okay, win as much as you can. And the moment that we do that, we start to think, for me to win, someone else must lose. And we have to get away from that thinking, because that's not win-win, that's win-lose. And quite often win-lose becomes lose-lose. We both lose out of it because we're determined to win, and therefore we both lose out of it. And so habit 4 is looking at how can I how can I find a solution with somebody else or with my team that everybody in the team feels like they're a winner? That nobody feels like, oh, I compromised on that, or I capitulated on that. And that's not easy. That, as I say, is what I struggle with the most when I'm working with young people. I try to teach that the best that I can so that there is an understanding of that. And that's not to say don't be competitive. It's not to say that competing is not a good thing. It's to say competing at the cost of somebody else or the cost of something else. That's the thing that we need to be looking at. And we find that people that are highly effective leaders and communicators have mastered this ability to be able to find the win-win solution. This one for me, seek to understand. Just because we look the same does not mean we think the same. That should be typographical there. And that really comes down to the school that I work in. That we have, as I said, more than 50 distinct nationality groups. We have Koreans that have grown up in Korea. We have Koreans that have grown up in America. We have Koreans that are from multiracial parentage. We have Australians that have never been in Australia, or Australians that, and we have all of these different, this kaleidoscope of backgrounds. Where I stand today, me personally, is based on the 63 years, my trajectory to where it is. I think the way that I think because of the people that I've met along the way. I think the way that I think because of the small town that I grew up in. And I think differently to someone else that grew up in that small town. I think differently to somebody that didn't grow up in that small town. And you come to a point of saying, okay, I really need to understand you before I can be understood. And again, that's a very difficult concept. And I'll give you an example. I had a young student many years ago who joined the 16-week leadership program with me, and she was very afraid to talk, to stand up and publicly speak in front of a small group or a large group. And I spoke to her about this, and I said, the program requires you to learn public speaking. You're going to need to speak. And she said, okay, I'll do it. But was very reluctant. And I used to just select, at random, I would select the topic that they had to present on each week, and just use students who did this. And her topic was seek to understand. That's all it was. Seek to understand. You've got to present 5 minutes on seek to understand. And she struggled with it. And my philosophy is, I don't help, I guide, but I don't give them the direction that otherwise I'm setting the presentation and they're not. And so I didn't. And she kept coming to me and said, I don't know where to go. And I kept giving her guidance of where she could go. And eventually she decided that she was going to present through a pair of shoes. And she brought in a pair of shoes from her wardrobe, and she just stood in front of the group and she held the shoes in front of her, and she spoke in the third person about the shoes, or as the shoes. And what we learned in that 5 minutes was how many schools she had been to in her life, how many she lived in conflict countries. She had seen people killed in the street in front of her home. She had been to many different schools. And in that 5 minutes, I learned there and then why she didn't want to talk to people, why she was reluctant to make friends, because every time she made friends, her parents' job meant that they moved. And so she had no real friends. And so it was that, and for me, the saddest part of this was I learned that 2 weeks before she left. And I'd worked with her for a year, and I didn't find the way to understand her before, because I know that I could have worked with her in a much different way. So that's why I think that some of these things are so important, so vital, that we're working with young people as effective and as timely as we can, because sometimes we don't get the opportunity to do it again. This one, synergize, habit 6, 1 plus 1 equals 3. The sum of the halves is greater than the whole. That sort of concept of if you and I work together, we can actually do more than the two of us working separately. And that also ties back into win-win. So when we're thinking about how we can do things, that looking at how we can synergize. For the musicians in the webinar, you know that once we resonate, once we get the voice or the harmony of the pitch to resonate, we create a greater sound than we can without that. And then of course the last is to sharpen the saw, and that means to practice, practice and practice. If we think we are going to be able to achieve the first time, then we're wrong. And if we also feel that at 63 there's no point in practicing anymore, then we're wrong, because I come back to that, there's somebody watching us. And if I live my everyday that there's somebody watching me that respects what I do, that wants to be like me, then I have a responsibility not to let that person down. So let's come back to some significant communication. I think there are 3 things that we have to teach young people, and if we can do this ourselves, then we're good. We're preparing young people for a future that we don't know, and they don't know. We are at the fastest growth point in the evolution of information than we've ever been. We are looking at jobs that the young people we're working with are going to be doing that we don't know what they are, and we don't know necessarily how to prepare them for it. But I do believe that these 3 things are our responsibility. There will always be conflict, and we need to teach conflict resolution. We need to teach peaceful conflict resolution. There will always be problems. And while I believe that the internet and Google have robbed young people the ability to problem solve, because the solution is the click of a mouse, we need to teach problem solving. We need to teach them how to solve problems without Google, without the internet. We need to teach them how to utilize the elders who have spent a life gathering information. We need to look to our mentors. We need to look to, and we need to teach young people problem solving, how to think logically, how to think outside of the box so that they can find solutions to the problems that are there. And the last piece is effective communication. It's so important that we are empowering young people to communicate effectively. If we are not showing them the way to do that, then I don't think we are preparing them for the future. If a young person is able to manage these 3 things, if we are able to get them to understand and work at these 3 areas, then our responsibility of educators is done. The content, the details, that can come later. I know that we must make strong connections with individuals. We as adults have strong connections with significant adults or significant others that we turn to when we need. We must be doing that for the young people. We must be setting up pathways, setting up programs, giving them the opportunity to make significant connections with significant adults in their life. Those that they respect, those that are going to be their mentor programs, leadership programs are really important. And for those of you that know of these, I'm not going to share these with you at the moment, but they are linked, and the presentation that I'm doing will be made available. But I do ask you, or do suggest that looking at the 40 development assets is a really valuable thing. These are developmental assets that researchers have found that young people that are successful, that are motivated, tend to be influenced by these 14 developmental assets. And the other one that I've done some work with is the Values in Action, the Inventory of Strengths. It's a great little program if you are working with students, even as adults to do for yourselves. It's an online program where you can actually have a look at what your strengths are. You answer a series of questions, you do a series of tasks, and this brings you some strengths, and then you are actually able to teach you some tools and some guidelines and working with those strengths. I'm very much aware of the time, and so I want to continue on. The piece for me, and this is probably where I do most of my work, is not inside the classroom, but outside. I believe that we have a responsibility to motivate outside of the classroom, so inside the classroom becomes relevant. If a young person does not have a picture of what they want, then what we're trying to pour into them through the knowledge in the classroom, that is never going to make sense. We have to, and so the majority of my work, my year is based around creating programs outside of the classroom that can make inside the classroom relevant. And you can imagine that may create some conflict with some of my colleagues as I take students outside and away from the classroom. But what I have found is those that are struggling inside the classroom are going to struggle. If I take them outside of the classroom and they find the reason to be back inside the classroom, when they come back inside, they will not struggle, they will strive. And so outside of the school, local communities, global communities, as I said, I started this morning my phone conversation with South Africa because of the COVID crisis that's happening there. We have what I call my extended family. I was supposed to be flying there on Thursday to work for 2 weeks with 40 of our students, and in the rural communities down there, and clearly COVID has stopped that. But through that program, I find that the young people that I work with on that are inspired, they're empowered, and they really take this on as a program that they gain from through the contribution that they make. The questions that I ask when I'm looking at have I empowered or are my students empowered, are they goal-oriented, have they got a goal? Are they being honest with themselves? So often in my office as an assistant principal I get to deal with discipline as well as leadership. And are they telling me what they think they want me to hear, or are they being honest with themselves and telling me what they want? Are they hardworking and persevering, or is it too easy to give up? I'm a firm believer that without service to others, none of this makes sense. There needs to be, in everything we do, there needs to be someone else that we are actually working for, working towards. Are they good listeners? Are they actually able to listen, hear what is being said? And can we come down to be communicators? And that's not necessarily are they able to stand up and publicly speak, but are they able to, when they're making communication, whether it be through a student councillor, whether it be through an advocacy with the head of the school, the director of our school, are they good with the community? They using the communication that they might use in the street, and therefore not being effective? Are they good decision makers? What are they doing when no one's watching? I often tell my students, I'm not interested in what you're doing while I'm watching. I know what you're going to do. I'm interested in what you're doing when no one's watching. Are they encouraging? Are they encouraging others? Are they encouraging themselves? Are they hard on themselves? Or are they others? Are they honking to make it positive? Are they positive? Are they seeing that they have a responsibility to be positive rather than someone else has a responsibility to make them positive? And then we come down to responsibility. Are they taking responsibility? If I can answer yes to these, then I walk away feeling like I have an empowered student, and walk away metaphorically. It then leads me to, okay, these students now are the right students for my programs. My everyday leadership program is a 16-week, 1.5 hours a week, developing everyday leadership, how they work and lead with themselves. Learning to Lead is a residential weekend where we fine-tune some of the program from the everyday leadership, and we turn it into a Learning to Lead. So it's for those that are part of the school's leadership program, those that are looking for leadership opportunities and looking to make these opportunities authentic. One of the things that I believe strongly is that if I take a student out of their comfort zone and I put them into a residential program away from parents, away from phones, away from technology, then I have a much stronger chance of making a program that is authentic for them and fashioning some change. Finding new voices for younger kids, Hear Me Roars for even the younger ones. All of these are residential programs. All of them are looking at empowering them to actually have a voice and to speak up. The Venture Challenge for me is taking students outside of their day-to-day routine and pushing them to a point where they didn't think they could go, and then we go beyond it. I've just completed a 6-day adventure challenge with 11 students. We walked 110 kilometers. We camped out for 6 nights. They carried 15 kilograms of backpacks, and they had their tents and cooking. And through that challenge, now I will meet with those students when we come back to school, and we will fashion the next stage of that program, because these programs are standalone. We also are fortunate enough to live quite close to Switzerland, and we take students down again into the snow, because that adds another element of challenge, it adds another element of difficulty. All of these are leading to the humanitarian projects that we work with. Everything that I do is with the knowledge that I'm going to be preparing young people to work in humanitarian projects around the world. Some in our local community, some in our international community, and some halfway around the world in South Africa. We also have a peer educators program. I don't know whether your schools have that, but that's also really vital. Looking at what am I teaching young people to teach young people? How have I set up my school? How have I set up my communications in my school? Is it a horizontal communication forum? So my grade levels are working with it. It's a little bit like in my faculty. Is it just my department that work together, or do I have interdepartmental programs so that the science department and the English department can work together, the music department and design technology can work together? Am I working with young people so that a 12th grade student, a senior student, can be working with my 6th grade student, and setting up a peer educators program, setting up Big Brother, Big Sister programs. These are, for me, this is what the whole communication program is about. This is what the whole focus of my year is. My calendar is set by these programs, with the view that in the summer, after a year of working with programs, then there are the major projects, the humanitarian projects that can be taking place. I don't see that anything stands alone. Everything that we do, or the communications we do, everything that I've brought to you has to work together for an ultimate goal. So let me close by looking at this. What is our responsibility? I come back to it. My responsibility is to ensure that my communication has integrity. My responsibility is to always be aware that someone is watching me, that admires me, that respects what I do, and I have a responsibility not to let them down. And ultimately, my responsibility is to inspire young people to be better than they thought they could be, to support them, to put the things in place that give them the opportunity to discover that. So, when we're asked what do you teach, most of us will say, you teach English, or I'm a science teacher, or I teach filmmaking. But the reality is, we teach students, we teach colleagues, we teach how to have a better future. Tony Robbins, if you get an opportunity to listen to him speak, please take it. Effectively communication, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world, and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. If we want to create the leaders of tomorrow, there is no better time to develop our students as leaders than today. I thank you for your time. I'm looking at my watch, it says it's 11:04. I would like to open up, if we have time, for any questions. And I thank you very much for being part of this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Now, participants, may please ask your questions if you have. Pete, sir. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
One of the participants has asked how to motivate the demotivated students.
If I knew that the answer to that question, I would be on the global stage and I'd be making millions of dollars in presentation fees. My belief is, with unmotivated students, it is my responsibility to search every corner of the planet to find what motivates them. And what motivates one does not motivate the other. That is probably the most difficult thing to do. The reason why I run as many programs as I run, why I am on the sideline at the sports matches, whether it's basketball or girls softball or swimming, is because without doing that, I don't know women that are in my care. And I know that a student that is not motivated in the classroom is motivated somewhere else. And it's my responsibility to be able to find that. And I can sit down and talk to them, and I know they won't tell me. So it becomes then the response, and it's not necessarily my responsibility to find it, but it is our responsibility as an educational community to find it. And that's why it is so important that we make significant, we set up opportunities for significant contact with a significant adult. Kids don't learn from people they don't trust. They don't learn from people they don't like. They don't learn when there is no relevance in what they're learning. Let me give you an example. I work in a school where we were not preparing young men and women for university. We were preparing them for the job market. And so that you can understand maybe a certain clientele. And most of the young men that I got to work with, their goal in life was to have a nice car. That was what they wanted. And so when we sat down with those that were not so motivated, that was how we did it. We said, okay, well, what's the car that you want? What's your ultimate dream? So they would bring in a photograph of the car. and then I would cut it up in front of them, cut it into pieces, and say, okay, now those pieces, every time you do something you're really proud of, or the school recognizes you for something, I'm going to give you one of those pieces. And every time you do something that you're not proud of, or the school needs to discipline you, we're going to take one of those pieces away. And through that, eventually, they built the picture of the car. It was on their wall in their study room at home, and they built the picture of their car. It was like a jigsaw puzzle, but they could see their dream, their ideal developing, and that worked with some students. Other students, I had a boy that his parents credited me with making the change, and it wasn't me at all. It just happened that I was lucky enough to be in his life at that time. But he was in a skiing accident, and the tip of his finger was pulled off. This was water skiing, and the tip of his finger was pulled off with a ski rope. By a ski rope, and he was going to come on a 2-week program with me, and we worked out a way that we could do that with the injury that was there. He walked away from that 2-week program and said, my life has changed. I'm not going to waste a single opportunity now. Whether that was me, whether that was the tip of his finger being pulled off, whether that was the 2-week program, humanitarian program, it doesn't matter. What matters is he found the motivation. He found the thing that changed him, that made him want to learn, that made what was being put in front of him in his lessons relevant for the future that he found himself. And last way to close this is, for those of you know of the Camino de Compostela, which is a Christian pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela in Spain, of about 800 kilometers. I walk on that as often as I'm able to. It gives me great time for solitude and gives me great time for reflection. But what I've also found is that it is actually used by correctional services in Spain, and the young men and women that get to walk on that rather than go to correctional services. The repeat offenders are significantly less. And when I'm walking on it, I think, all I need to do is get those students that are not motivated to walk with me, and they're not allowed to go home until they give me the right answers and say, yes, okay, I want to study. This is what's relevant. And if we get to the other side of Spain, 800 kilometers later, and they still haven't realized that, then I take them back to the start and we go again. I don't know what the answer is to motivating kids, but I know that we have a responsibility to find that switch, and there is no greater joy in my life than seeing a young person switch it on and then go, okay, this is what I want for my life, and then everything else fits in. I hope that's answered your question.
Thank you, sir. And the next question is this: how to improve reality view on the society?
Say again, please.
How to improve reality view on the society?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
That is the question asked by last show.
How do I view reality shows on society? Is that what the question was?
That's a view on the society.
Okay, it seems to be breaking up. I think I'm hearing the question, how do I view reality shows' impact on society? Yeah, I'm sorry because the audio coming back to me is breaking up. I'm not getting everything, so I'm sorry that this is just someone else that can ask the question that maybe has got a better audio.
Oh, sir, we move on to next question.
Okay.
The next question is this. Does the economic condition of students play a role in getting motivated? You have to handle it.
Does the economic circumstance?
Does the economic condition of students play a role in getting motivated? You have to handle it.
Okay. I think one of the things, I come back to motivation of students. There are multiple factors. If you go back into the presentation when it's shared with you and look at the 40 developmental assets, it's to me it's such a gamble what motivates a student, because what motivates one doesn't motivate the others. Those that are in fortunate circumstance can be demotivated as equally as those that are in unfortunate circumstance. There is motivating students. If we, I think that's probably the key, and maybe it is also the piece that your audience is asking about because it concerns us most. I'm in an incredibly fortunate school. I don't know how it came about, but our students are motivated, and they're motivated to a point where they motivate each other. And it's very unique in that regard. As I say, I've worked in many schools. This is the 20th school that I've worked in, and it's the longest school that I've worked in, and that's part of the reason, is that I find the students are motivated, and therefore they motivate. What I suggest is find the students that are motivated. We each know them. Find those students that are motivated and sit with them and ask them what's motivating them, and then get their motivating of the motivation of others, because they know each other better than we do. The other thing too is for the faculty. I don't know whether you've ever done this, but with a student, with a grade level, with a cadre of students, however you decide on that, sit with the faculty, whether it's a department, whether it's cross faculty, whether it's whole faculty, and see if you can put a red, green, and a yellow dot next to every student. A red dot means you know something significant about their home life. A yellow dot means you know something significant about their school life, and a green dot means you know something significant about their personal life. And that means you're not trying, but they've had a conversation with you. They've engaged in a conversation with you about that. And something significant may be positive, it may be negative, but it's something that you can actually engage in a conversation with them about. You know, when I call a student into my office, they usually think I'm going to tell them off, and when I'm going to congratulate them because they've just won a horse riding championship, or they've just I've seen a piece of art that they've done, or I learned that they've just had a new baby brother. You know, I'm not doing anything ingenuine, but I'm showing that I'm interested in them, and interested enough to take the time. And what I find is that the students that see that I'm interested in them and what they do want to share what they do, and then you start to develop a connection. I was married last year, having been a bachelor for most of my life, and my wife has two children from another relationship who also attend our school, and so it's been very interesting for me to go from an assistant principal to a stepdad of these three children. One is a senior, one is a junior, and one is a freshman. And each one of those three has a very different way of being motivated. And so some of the challenges of the first year of marriage is working out what's the best way to support these young people that are intimately involved in my life now, and find what motivates each one of them to be the best that they can be. And so I have a completely new challenge, and it's a much more intimate and personal challenge. But that's the red dot, the yellow dot, and the green dot. If you can do one other thing, if you do it in a faculty meeting and you ask everybody to do this, you will start to see students that don't have any dots next to it, or that only have dots about this, or only have dots about that. And then you have a responsibility, because somebody needs to make a connection with that young individual. And it is my belief that no matter what their circumstances, if they make a connection, a significant connection with an adult they trust, they respect, and they admire, everything else starts to fall into place for them. They will become motivated in their studies because they don't want to disappoint you, because all of a sudden you're the person that's in the background looking at them that they believe they would disappoint if they don't. I hope that's answered your question.
Hello, sir.
Yes, hello.
Okay, one last question. See, your answers clarify many questions posted in the chat box. So I'm limiting the question to the one question, and that is this: may I know the way to use enhanced, rich vocabulary? Also, the best novels to develop language.
Oh, wow. That's a very difficult question for me to answer. How can I? I think one of the things for me that actually developed my language, I became fascinated with language and the etymology of words and where language comes from and those sorts of things. But I also got fascinated with growing up with English, thinking English is a silly language. How can words that are spelt the same be pronounced differently? How can words that are spelt differently be pronounced the same? All those kind of things. And also, I'm dyslexic, and so reading was very difficult for me. But the moment that I found text and materials that I enjoyed reading, that was when it changed. I still find it difficult to be able to recommend books. I think that for me, the richness of language comes through enjoying the journey of what you're reading. I really be an avid reader, and I don't think it matters what it is so much. It's that sense of read in a language that is not yours, or read in a language that you're seeking to, but read in a style, read in a format that you actually enjoy. I was told as a young learner not to read certain books, only to read other books. And the problem with that was the books that I was being told to read held no interest to me. They didn't have the intrigues of science. They didn't have the intrigues of filmmaking, which is what I do now. And so I didn't read them because they were a chore. They were difficult. And when I did read the books that I wanted to read, I was told don't read them. So my reading was really limited as a young person. And then when I was no longer in school and I could read what I wanted to read without being then my English and my reading flourished, and my command of the language started to flourish as well. I think that we try to thrust upon young people sometimes books that are good for them, that they won't read, and don't allow them to read books that maybe aren't so good for them, but they will read. And that through that reading, they will develop their language, they will develop the understanding of it. And again, it's that, okay, now I'm interested. And so now as an adult, I go back and read some of those books that as a youth I was told that I should read because I've developed an interest in reading. But if I have that crushed out of me, then I'm not going to read anything. And that to me is the real dilemma that I face, is that we don't want a child reading trash, but is trash better than nothing? Will trash help them develop the language or a passion or an interest in reading that then I can move them into quality reading? Everything comes back to that. What am I doing to develop the passion that young person can have for whatever they're doing? I think that young people should live a passionate life. And then out of that, develop the discipline, develop the finesse, develop those other things. But without the passion to do it, they're more likely to do nothing. That's the way I feel about it. Did that answer the question? I've got total silence. I'll either put the audience to sleep or we have a technical problem.
Thank you, sir. And now I invite
A very warm and breathtaking afternoon to one and all. Myself, Anu Chandra Mohan, Assistant Professor on Contracts from the English Department of St. Mary's College, Thrissur. I'm honored and privileged to have been vested upon the duty of proposing the vote of thanks. I reminiscence the presence and blessings of God Almighty, without whose omniscience none of this would have happened. And I sincerely thank the principal of our college, Dr. Sister Maggie Jose, for the underpinning support and the trust that you have on us. And thank you so much for being there through this webinar. Thank you so much. Now, how should I put this? I don't know, but still, words aren't enough to express our gratitude for your presence, Mr. Pete Sinclair, with us. Because, sir, the amount of your experience, your thoughts, as you've mentioned that now that you are no longer among the young educators, you are one of the older educators. I mean, what should I say? What a class! You know, I was, in fact, I was stunned by the way when you said communication along with technology allowed us to get connected during this pandemic. And in fact, I believe through your words, we've all, with just 1 hour, I believe, we've all been trained as communicants and problem solvers. So again, I would say, just words alone won't show us the amount of gratitude that we have on you, sir. Thank you so much for being such, an inspiration to all of us here. Then, how should I say, the anchor of our department, Dr. Bindu and Philip, ma'am. From scratch, this was your idea. You were there throughout the entire, how should I say, the process for this to happen. Right? So, and that too, with a strong amount of companions, we colleagues, how can this department not venture so well? So I really take this opportunity to thank all of you for having such an impeccable impact. All right. I take this opportunity to thank my head of the department and my colleagues while indoors. A special mention to the technical staff from our college, a big salute for being there with us throughout, for giving us the technical support as well. And last, but how can I not mention the audience, the amount of, how should I say, your what should I say, it was commendable, that it was commendably impeccable by the, the words that, I was noting the amount of audience, the response that they were giving when something inspirational from Mr. P. Sinclair comes out, they instantly give that feedback. So I believe that is the amount of, again, the impact that we wanted to bring on you as well. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all form of audience, let it be students, scholars, professors, everyone from every realms. So once again, thank you so much, all of you once again from the St. Mary's fraternity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all the participants. The session ends here.
So we can call it a day, right? Thank you everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, Pete.
Hello.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed listening to you. It was a very, very informative session. Thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences. It was really wonderful.
Thank you very much for sharing that. It's as I said to my wife this morning, I would much rather be standing in a stadium of 1,000 people presenting directly to you all rather than through this technology, but it enables us to come together, and I hope that something in there, maybe you can feel the passion that I do have for this gift of education. I think it is the best job on the planet. I don't think that there is.
Indeed, it's the best. I totally agree with you, and while I was listening to you, it was very, very interesting to note that although I'm very young in the profession, I find myself saying most of these things while I'm in a classroom. And I used to think that maybe I'm digressing and deviating from academics, but listening to you today gave me this confidence that teachers are not really only teaching the syllabus, they're also teaching life skills, and it is very important, and that's actually where the role of the teacher comes in, when we are imparting our experiences and life skills to our students and helping them evolve their own techniques for facing life and its challenges. So it was really, I mean, personally, I had a very great time. I was practically spellbound listening to you, and thank you so much again.
Thank you very much for saying that. It's one of, I met an educator some years ago, and he said, this is the only job that we have that touches the future. And I believe that so strongly. The challenge that we have, or the challenge that I have in my classroom, is to make sure that I am balancing the motivation aspect of what I want to do with the students and the course content aspect that they need to have. And so that's the challenge, is finding that balance. But as I say, I firmly believe that if we are able to motivate them, get them motivated to want to learn, then they take care of the other side of things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best for all your endeavors. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, thank you. My name is Sumiti, and I'm speaking from Karnal, which is in Haryana, in north of India. I'm an assistant professor in English.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I'm sure you. Yeah.
I've been to India I think 4 times now, but only into Kerala. Really, my Bindu and her brother Vijay, who encouraged me to be part of this. I visited their home and family.
We would like to invite you. Yeah, we'd like to invite you to our college. Let me try and work out the details somehow.
That would be wonderful. I'll be more than happy to.
Great. Once the pandemic is over, we'll look forward to more exchanges face to face than over the technology.
Thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say that.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're getting a lot of feedback, overwhelming feedback through the chat box, Mr. Beat. Everyone is so happy.
It's difficult. It's really difficult to know. I've talked to a presentation screen for an hour. It's very difficult to gauge anything. And now all I can see is myself on the screen as well, which is
they're asking for your email address. They're asking for your contact details.
Please feel free to share. That's not a problem at all. Please
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay. I'll work out a way to get this presentation to you. I think I'll need to just put it into a slide format. In fact, you use Google Slides?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I'll convert it into a Google Slides format for you so that you can then share that, and I'll share it with you as a Google Slide.
All right.
It's a keynote presentation at the moment. I'll need to make sure that the links are active in the Google Slides.
Okay, so thank you so much, and you enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Yes, I will. I could hear the dog outside, and I'm not sure. I've just planted some new flowers in the garden, so they may or may not be there at the moment. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, so when you leave, just remember that you have a lot of fans in India now.
Thank you very much.
Lot of admirers.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful. It's one of those things that you sort of think, well, I just don't know what value I can add. But if I speak from what I believe, then that's what I say to the kids. If what you're saying is what you believe, then there's a message in that. So.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I'll be in communications later.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
ചെയ്യണ്ട ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഫിൽ ചെയ്യണമെന്നെല്ലാം നോക്കാം.